I never believed in the paranormal. I thought these things were nonsense, but I can still remember that damn day. A day that teared us apart. I regret now that I don't know what certainly happened to my friends, but I'm sure they aren't alive anymore. Steve was the initiator, and we should have listened to the many warnings we received, or to the many times our friends were freaked out, or even when things began to get out of control. But we didn't, and probably my friends paid the cost. I might be the following, or might not. I'm ready to fight it anyway, even though a gun won't do anything. We got into that abandoned house just to please Steve, who wanted something interesting for his YouTube channel. According to him, the house was abandoned many years ago since the owner died and none of his children took it over. At first, it looked like a silly and inoffensive house, but Sylvia already didn't like it when we were in front of it. Sylvia wasn't the only one who didn't like it, Amelia as well, when we entered. Ronald didn't get scared that easily and wanted to help Steve. However, even I had my doubts about the house. As it was abandoned, it needed to be cleaned. Many things needed to be fixed. I certainly noticed that compared to the normal room, there were some things that weren't right, like broken furniture and broken stuff, etc. That told me that maybe a fight happened long ago, and I was right. A fight happened, but not long ago. We didn't know anything until very late. Steve suggested we had to split up and record any paranormal event, scary enough to be good for his audience. We all obey, but most of us were not sure of this adventure. We were apparently ready to raid into the house, and so we did, but we had no idea what we were going to find. From the very beginning, the house was weird. It didn't feel abandoned for me and Sylvia. She told me she could feel something bad within it, but was unable to explain. We searched through some of the rooms, recording with the camera and night vision. The very first experience for us happened in one of the kids' rooms, when the rocking horse moved by itself. We used the night vision mode to try and see something, and what we saw was scary. The shape of a kid, barely visible, was on the rocking horse. "We should get out of here before it's too late. There's something really wrong with this place," said Sylvia. I calmed her down a bit and insisted to check 2 more rooms before leaving on our own. We continued to another room without seeing anything. Then we had 2 choices: the parents' room and another room, maybe the oldest child's room. I decided to go into the parents' one. Before getting to the doorknob, we hear an ugly scream. "Amelia!" instantly said Sylvia. We didn't open the door and went downstairs at once. We found her crying in the living room. We asked her what happened, and she explained with horror that Roland was with her and about to enter a room that looked like a janitor's room, and something called her name, so she turned back. There was a type of shadow, and she jumped out of fear. She asked Roland if they could leave, but he was looking into the room under the stairs, and something sucked him in. She screamed and ran to the living room. Half of us wanted to get out, but the other half didn't want to leave Roland in there, so we all agreed to look for him. Before spreading out, Steve requested to see what each one had recorded, and the results were terrifying. The house was filled with shadows, some black and some white. "Trapped souls," said Steve. Our worst mistake was to spread out and look for Roland, who at the time was already dead. We began looking in many rooms for him, but somehow the rooms never ended. Sylvia and I later discovered somehow the house got bigger, turning its inside into a type of labyrinth. The last door we checked was the one with the strange symbol on it. We could not stay there anymore as we were extremely scared. The door led us into a room with many symbols in which we saw a mirror, and a second later the following words appeared: "No escape." I searched the room as much as I could for an exit, finding a strange mysterious book with an unreadable title. But as soon as we did, the door unlocked and we miraculously exited to the living room, which was next to the main house's door. We were about to run towards it when a monstrous voice talked to us. "Leaving so fast?" We turned our heads towards its origin, and we saw him. Roland, covered in blood, carrying Steve's body in his left hand. After escaping, we read the book, doing what we could to translate the unreadable language, which looked closer to Latin. The house belonged to a family. The youngest children fell into witchcraft and sacrificed one of his sisters. This opened the door for spirits, turning the house into a madness box. The family escaped from the house. The book's owner warned the readers that whatever the children cast might hurt those who enter the house and could somehow escape. Sylvia has not answered either of my phone calls, nor my messages for a week. I'm afraid she might get killed by Roland. And if he is looking for me, I'm ready to fight him. Jasmine was returning from a regular grocery store run on that day. While driving her car back home, Jasmine's eyes caught the sight of some long, thin curtains with a beautiful small golden plates on them. They were flying in the air beautifully, as if they were calling her closer. Jasmine felt so drawn in those curtains that she parked her car on the corner of the street so that she could glance at those fascinating curtains. She took a closer look at the curtains and asked the person who was selling them, "What's the price for this?" To which the guy replies in a very creepy way, "You can't buy this." "I'm sorry," Jasmine replied with confusion on her face. "This will cost you a great amount," the guy replied with a serious face. Jasmine sensed something was wrong, but she tried again. "Name me the price." $100, he replied. Jasmine aggressively takes the $100 from her purse and asks him to pack the curtains. The boy again asks her, "Are you sure you want this?" But this time Jasmine had already lost her temper, so she snatched the packed curtains and left without saying anything. Casting the incident from her mind, Jasmine came home. She kept her grocery bags in the kitchen and went upstairs to her bedroom to hang the new curtains. She does the work and realizes that the curtains are a match with her bedroom walls. But then she spotted an issue. She noticed that the curtains were thin, but were blocking the rays of sun that were entering the room and making it look darker. She decided to open the curtains. Jasmine then went to the kitchen and put all her groceries in the refrigerator, grabbing some snacks for her and returning to the bedroom. She found something weird, as the curtains that she had opened were closed on their own. Jasmine's gut was telling her that something was wrong. Ignoring herself, she thinks it's all in her head. She turns the AC on with her phone and leans on her bed headboard and starts watching random things on her phone. The air coming from the AC made the curtains move a little, making the ends of the curtains touch her feet. At this point, Jasmine, who was into the web series that she was watching, started to experience the creepiest part. Suddenly a hand, completely burned with long nails, comes out from below the curtains and grabs Jasmine's feet. Jasmine freaked out and quickly checked her feet but found nothing and started panicking. She observes somebody's shadow behind the curtains, so she comes near to them, raises her hand towards the curtains, her fingers shaking. Jasmine, with a gasp, grabbed the curtains and swung them into the air to see if somebody was hiding. She checks from left to right and finds nothing. Jasmine now closed her eyes and relaxed with a deep breath. Right on that spot, she hears the whisperers. "I will take you to hell." Aghast, Jasmine sensed as if the dark shadow was sitting next to her and watching her. Jasmine was scared from deep inside and instantly turned around, but she found herself alone. Jasmine was now so stressed out that she held her face in her hands to make herself calm down, but this didn't help. She got more panicked as the curtain swings to her ears and she hears a heavy yet slow shaky voice. "I'm going to take you with me now." Jasmine removes her hands from her face, trembling heavily as she realizes something is very wrong in her room. Everything goes silent. Jasmine, still crying, turns her head around swiftly to observe a woman's face with bloody holes for eyes, her mouth hanging from its jaw, dark, wide and open, and resulting with a sharp, loud scream. Jasmine trembles with shock. She cries for help while getting off her bed, but she falls as a black hand with long nails holds her neck and pulls her towards the curtains. Jasmine grabs the furniture and struggles to escape, but a ray of hope appears as she hears her boyfriend's voice saying, "Honey, I'm home." Jasmine screams and says, "Josh, help me!" To which Josh runs upstairs to check his girlfriend, but what he finds makes his blood turn cold. He sees Jasmine flying in the air with a hand coming from behind the curtains, grabbing her neck. Josh gets goosebumps and loses his mind. Frightened, Jasmine says, "Josh, please help me. It's going to take me with her." After listening to this, Josh decided what he needed to do. He runs and takes petrol from his car, pouring it on the curtains, and threw a lighter on it, setting them ablaze, thinking the fire would destroy the curtains. But despite the high flames, the curtains do not burn at all. Now there comes a dark, creepy face with its eyes popped out and hanging wide open mouth, with skin peeled and burned, blood falling from its eyes. This time there was a cunning and devilish smile on that bloody cut face. That thing laughed for a while and hits Jasmine on the back of the head, which leads to both her eyes falling out. The evil takes her to the curtains with a flash. Both of them vanished. Josh gets on his knees, crying and screaming Jasmine's name, asking the evil to release her. After 6 months, the police failed to find Jasmine and figure out what had happened that day. Josh, who lost all hopes of getting his girlfriend back again, was adjusting their furniture at the side of the road as he was reselling Jasmine's stuff. A car passing by stopped. The girl put her car window down and asks, "Hey, what's the price of these beautiful curtains?"